You're still watching Midday Live. Time now for business. And the WHO Country Director for Ghana, Dr. Magda Robalo, says the closure of borders to contain the Ebola outbreak is an absolute ineffective measure which would rather affect both formal and informal trade. According to her, the decision will impoverish people without helping contain the disease. WHO says the Ebola epidemic trend remains precarious, with communities and health facility transmissions of infection still taking place. Cases and deaths are still being registered. As of July 23, 2014, the cumulative number of cases attributed to the Ebola virus in Liberia, Guinea and Sierra Leone stood at 1,201, including 672 deaths. Sierra Leone was leading with a number of cases, recording 525 cases and 224 deaths, followed by Guinea, 427 cases and 319 deaths, and lastly Liberia, 249 cases and 129 deaths. So what brings about the new cases?
We have people who have been in contact with infected patients who unfortunately are not either reporting to health facilities early enough, caring for sick people without the protective clothing, mourning dead people who are known to have died of Ebola without following the instructions that are given by the health personnel.
With news on border closure, we bring you a flashback of the end of the two-day emergency ministerial meeting on the Ebola virus held in Accra early July.
It's very hard simply to stop disease spread at borders. In fact, we have really moved away from this. When you close borders, you increase anxiety, you increase adverse effects, you make people very worried, and you can harm economies, you can harm communities without stopping the disease.
This position notwithstanding, there are reports that Liberia has closed its borders. Dr. Magda Robalo reaffirmed WHO's position.
I've learned through the news that that measure has been taken by the authorities in Liberia. I cannot confirm whether it's true or not, but WHO is not recommending any country to close its borders. What we are recommending is that the population be given adequate information, be educated about how to prevent the disease.
She indicated this would affect trade and commerce in the sub-region.
It is an absolutely ineffective measure. People will still go for business, to visit family members and do what they have to do.
Dr. Robalo also touched on news about flight bans to Liberia and Sierra Leone.
WHO is not recommending that we stop travel. We have instructions and guidance. This is actually available on our website.
Now, talking about flights and travel, still on Ebola, Acting Managing Director of the Ghana Airport Company says steps are being taken to ensure safety and security at the airports with the outbreak of Ebola in the West African sub-region. Preventive measures introduced include use of hand sanitizers. It would also launch an education campaign on Ebola. The airport company has organized an emergency medical drive for protocol, including the regional airports. The airport company is also liaising with the Ministry of Health to ensure safety standards are not compromised. And still on Ebola and trade, I'm going straight to the phone line to speak with Nana Mensah, a financial analyst. Good afternoon, Nana, and thanks for your time.
Good afternoon.
Now, you have been following the situation keenly, and you have been speaking about Ebola and its effects on trade, and looking at the cases recorded and the number of deaths. How is this going to affect specifically the level of trade in the West African sub-region?
Right. I think that the key point is that West Africa is called an economic community. It's the largest economic bloc within the West African sub-region, roughly of a population of about 250 people. Now, in terms of trade, I think that even though nobody has put a definite figure on how much we are trading among ourselves, I believe a third of the domestic goods and services that we consume are traded amongst us. And so if you look at Nigeria, which is now the biggest economy in West Africa and also in Africa due to the recent re-evaluation of their economy, I think that yes, anything that hinders the free movement of goods and services within the economic bloc, it's a danger to the entire economy of West Africa.
Now, early on this month, you did speak with me and you did raise some concerns about the level of information being circulated, and thereafter the Ebola conference was organized here in Accra. Now, are you satisfied or comfortable with the level of information being circulated around now on the outbreak?
Definitely I'm not, because if you listen to the press conference, the kind of information that we were given today, I was kind of surprised, because in terms of even how many health officials we have deployed within Ghana, the figure was not given. How much we are going to spend or how much it's going to cost, the figure was not given. And then again, it looks as if we do not seem to have a timetable. Because why am I saying that? Because when the minister was asked, is Ghana also going to close its borders, more or less, and kind of control the free movement of goods and services and people within the sub-region, whether we're going to prevent our airlines from going to Liberia, is we are monitoring the situation. We're monitoring the situation, and then when it talks about the level of preparedness, I quite remember us creating 3 emergency spots, you know, in the country, and then within the week, it says within the week, the coming week. And I was kind of surprised, because I thought the conference would have addressed, you know, because the first stage was the information. We were all shocked that Ebola had come to West Africa. But then that was the first shock. The second case was to educate the populace about what Ebola was as a public health concern. Then the third stage was to move to the sensitization period. Now, sensitization period, as we should have been in now, means that you put in place certain mechanisms and structures, and you're only telling people that, hey, look, should you be traveling from Cote d'Ivoire to, let's say, Nigeria, after 200 kilometers from this border, there is this spot, emergency or temporary facility that has been created. So if you detect any strange behavior of a passenger, you better move straight there. Don't talk to the person. When you go there, we have a hotline. And that was one other thing. We could not even announce a hotline for Ebola. So as you sit down now, if you suspect any case of Ebola, your problem would not only be that you are probably going to contaminate yourself and the rest of the family, but you do not have the structures that should have been there for you to use, for you to get whatever support you need. So I'm not satisfied. Yes.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Nana Mensah. We'll get you some more updates with him in a subsequent bulletin.